So, Mark, did you see the video of the guy on the craps table throwing a fit, a temper tantrum, a Vegas worthy temper tantrum, throwing the chips, bathing in them? I don't know what the heck he's doing.
I've had my nights in Vegas, but I don't know that I'd ever climb on a table and throw chips around and swat at people and just then lay down like you're making a snow angel or something out of chips.
I mean, what was he thinking? I've seen a lot of videos, but this one, I don't know. Kudos to the staff who has to try to keep control of the chips and figure out who had what and all of that. It has to be quite the mess.
Yeah, and then he's throwing stuff in the air, so they got to figure out what's going on there and do they get them all back? And I couldn't imagine the extra paperwork just from this guy being a jerk. I mean, it's pretty horrible.
Vegas Hall of Shame for sure.
At least he kept his clothes on, though.
Bad news from the Dirty Castle and Dirty Pyramid and all the dirties down on the south end of the strip. One of the best ways to get between properties there is the moving walkways. And, you can take the tram out on the strip, but depending on where you are at the properties, that doesn't always make sense. And it's a long walk. And so they have these moving walkways to help you out. They're always broken, always under repair. And now, apparently, according to some pictures coming out, they're just removing them altogether. We've seen this happen at other properties. Not a surprise, but kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice way to get around. That was the first time we ever went to Vegas. We used those going back and forth. Hopefully, this means they have parts to fix them elsewhere. I don't know. We always talk about the one leading into the Dirty Castle, how that one's always down. So maybe they can repurpose the parts there. But what I want to know is, how come airports can have these things functioning all the time, but Vegas casinos cannot figure it out?
Well, I've heard it has to do with the parts, and I think you make a great point. If this can save the moving walkway out front of Excalibur, then let's do it. Take the parts and let's do it. But I think a lot of these older moving walkways, the parts aren't available, so you're forced with either creating a new one, buying a brand new one, or, scrounging together parts, and that's why we've seen a lot of the moving walkways like at Mirage and all these other places taken out. Even at the airport in the A and B gates, they've taken out moving walkways from back in the day. So it's not exclusive to here. There are a lot of money to maintain, but it is a way to keep these properties cohesive.
Yeah, I mean, you want people to jump back and forth from the properties, make it as easy as possible so that they're willing to go spend the time in the other places.
What's not cool is what's happening over at Rio with breakfast. And this is something we've been following for a while. Rio joined Hyatt as part of their renovations. Hyatt has a loyalty program where their top tier globalists get free breakfast, and they were sort of overrunning Hash House A Go-Go. Then they created a limited menu. Then Hyatt said that's not okay, even though they're apparently still serving that limited menu. Now they've segregated globalists, the top tier Hyatt people, into a separate part of the dining room with its own wait, so that they don't clog up the restaurant, I guess. Yeah, it's not quite working out the way it's supposed to for Hyatt guests there. Is Rio wrong here, or are they just trying to manage?
I mean, if they had the buffet set up already, and, because that's the rumor that they're going to be putting a buffet together for globalist guests in this little area, that'd be one thing. Like, you could say, hey, this is the globalist breakfast. You get this buffet like you would in a lounge or whatever. And we have the setup. It'd be convenient, it'd be quicker, and you could, probably be more affordable for them. So I get all that. I'm sure people would still complain about not being able to order off the menu, but at least that would be the fix, where this is just like, hey, we know you spent a lot of money with Hyatt, but screw you. You can wait over here while we get these other people that are paying. And Hyatt's probably reimbursing them. So I don't get it. Like, maybe it's not full freight, but this is driving a lot of business for you. I don't know. You wouldn't expect that many of them to be there at one time, would you?
Yeah, it does seem popular. The only thing I can think of is the business model here is the hefty resort fee with lower rates. And we have seen them raise their rates a little bit, but they're still pretty low, and globalists aren't paying the resort fee. So they're just getting whacked, I think, on all sides, and it's hurting them there. So they either have to raise the rates or do something else. I don't quite know what they're going to do here, but it's not cool to treat your best customers as, this separate sort of thing. And isn't that the reason that you wanted Hyatt? And like you said, they're getting a lot of benefit out of it. It does seem like a lot of Hyatt customers are going over there.
Like you said, they're probably not profitable customers if they're not gambling or eating on property and stuff like that. But hey, that's kind of the deal you struck. And you think Hyatt would have known that this was happening, because the same thing happened with MGM, Dirty Castle, Dirty Pyramid. People used to book those rooms just to get the elite night credits. Now, they weren't getting the breakfast and stuff, but they should have had similar numbers to go off of and base, like, hey, we're going to have like 50 globalists a night at any given point.
We shall see the ongoing drama of the Rio, but, headed in the right direction. They keep opening up new places. We're excited about all of that. What's not so exciting, and there's a big sort of uprising here in Las Vegas about this, is these new houses that have been approved for near Red Rock Canyon. Jim Rhodes has been trying to develop this land for, I think, 20 years, and the county has been battling him out. A recent Supreme Court ruling about the Badlands Golf Course in the city of Las Vegas had to pay a ton of money for blocking development there. The county kind of put their hands up. They've been fighting this development. They're worried they're going to lose in court. So they're going to pay $86 million to Jim Rhodes, and he's going to be able to develop over 3,000 homes on this land. And if you see where this land is, it's right next to Red Rock. It's very remote compared to the rest of the valley. Going to add a ton of traffic. This is a very beloved natural space. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, what's crazy about all this is, how the wheels of justice turn so slowly. 20 years. We've talked about how the housing is an issue in Vegas and how they don't have enough. Hopefully this helps. But then you also have to look at, you're losing some of the natural beauty around there. But yeah, you purchase the land, it's zoned for a certain type of thing. That's what you expect to be able to build on it. And then they put up all these blockages so you can't. You're losing a little bit of natural beauty, but at least that should help some with the housing crisis that we're seeing in Vegas. So it's like a give and take. It's tough, but it's also, we all know it's necessary.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to hate your take on this, but yeah, maybe that is the case and it's progress and we do need housing. Is there other land that we could develop? Yes. Do they have the right to block it? It seems not. It's costing $86 million for the county too, which isn't great. So the only good thing about this is it was originally supposed to be 5,000 homes, and now under the new agreement, it's 3,500 homes. So maybe a little bit more spread out, but it's certainly going to change that area forever. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Another interesting story this week, Mark, is Lotus of Siam. Now, we talked that their original location on Sahara is coming back. We talked maybe a month or two ago about that. But now there's this big lawsuit. There's two other locations. There's one on East Flamingo, and then there's one in the Red Rock Casino. And apparently, and this is the first time we ever found this out, they were franchises. We knew that the one in Red Rock had a different ownership group, but now we're sort of learning that the original owners franchised this to their daughter and a partner. And then now they're suing them, saying that they're using the name and breaking all sorts of parts of the agreement, adding other menu items, not paying for the sauces, all kinds of stuff. So there's this little family battle at Lotus of Siam as the original location gets ready to reopen.
What's the number one rule of business, Sean?
I don't know.
Don't do business with your family. I mean,
oh yeah,
it always ends up messy. People think they can do certain things that they normally wouldn't because it's a family member. Everybody always crosses boundaries. I've lived through it. My parents, got into business with my uncle, and it ended really badly, bad blood for many, many years. And then the parents have to get involved. It's just like a mess. So that is the start of this whole thing. But I think some of their ideas were good. What was there, like girls in swimsuits trying to sell food or something?
Yeah, but can you imagine you have this very traditional business, this Thai restaurant that you've built up for decades, huge reputation here locally, but it's also made like national lists of the best restaurants, things like that. So you built this brand, allow your daughter to, create other locations, and then it kind of goes off the rails. It kind of seems like their daughter is doing the Ray Kroc thing with McDonald's, gets the rights, and then he's just expanding it. You're gonna have a Lotus of Siam everywhere.
Yeah, and it also is similar to what he was fighting when he had the people opening up McDonald's, is they would try to add different menu items to it, and he's like, no, you can't do that. And then he got to where he was buying the land so he could control it more. Maybe that's where they need to go, where they like open it and have all the controls or whatever. But it's always tough when you have franchisees and the contracts. It's even worse when it's your daughter and you have to go fight her in court.
I guess the good news is we're getting the original back, so we know that that's going to be the original food, so people should go there. Where people shouldn't go is Uncommons. Now, that is the mixed-use development that opened in the Southwest about a year ago across from Durango, and one of the big parts of that was their food hall. And unfortunately, some bad news, within a year, that entire food hall is closing. It opened with 15 different establishments. I think as of the time they announced it, there was 5 left, including only one of the original 15. And now they say they're going to repurpose it for something else. But a food hall fails in Las Vegas. That should be a joyous bit of news for you.
I mean, the saturation is just over the top. And then Durango opened up now across the street, which probably didn't help, even though I don't know, like, do you think that drew a ton of what they would have gotten? I don't know. It's just like a weird location. Food halls usually work because they have a lot of stuff around them. I know they're building condos around that. So maybe they hope that would bring enough people in, people visiting, everybody that live there and the businesses and stuff. But it's a little bit of a weird spot. And if you don't have a great food and great experience set up, you're not going to drive people in there from, outside of that area. And it sounds like the way that you ordered was kind of a pain and didn't make a lot of sense. And we talked about this with Resorts World. Their system was kind of buggy in the beginning. It was really tough. I tried it the first time. I've never ordered again there because of that experience. I don't want to deal with it. getting double billed and all kinds of crazy stuff. I want to just go to the counter and order the dang food and not have to deal with an app that's buggy. So maybe that played into it. I don't know. I don't know that they can put in anything in there that will take up that whole space and be, successful going forward.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's not like you can have a food hall on every corner and, having one right across the street at Durango, that's probably more easily accessible. There's a lot more to do there at Durango. Probably helped. Uncommons, not the hardest to get into, but traffic's not great. And it is a little bit of a venture to get inside of there. So I don't know. They have a lot of offices there, supposedly people during the day. That was sort of the idea. But for it to completely fail, like not even to have a few hanging on or basically to just shutter it and say, we're going to completely redo this space. That's a big admission and a pretty big failure early on for Uncommon. So hopefully better times ahead. As a reminder, we have our Patreon. We do a weekly after show talking Vegas, behind the channel, all of that good stuff. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all of the information. Thanks to everybody who supports us over there. So Las Vegas is expensive, Mark. That's the headline here. And actually, it's the most expensive place in the United States to visit. And Forbes Advisor did a study kind of looking at the cost of visiting places before the pandemic, after the pandemic. And Las Vegas is sort of crazy. From the fourth quarter of 2018 to the fourth quarter of 2023, daily hotel rates have gone up 47%, daily car rates 61%, daily meals almost 14%, but airfare's gone down over 5%, so that's good.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising to hear because it feels like, at least this summer, it feels like everything was expensive to fly around when I was checking for flights in the summer and the fall. But yeah, I don't even think that was like the peak. The end of 2023 wasn't as expensive as it got in 2022, I feel like. So if they would have done the numbers then, I think it would have been even more stark in contrast to 2018. But just goes to show what we've talked about and what a ton of people have commented about, that the really great deal atmosphere of Vegas and, over delivering and underselling just isn't the same as it was. I can't blame them. People are still coming in droves and they're spending the money. So until that stops, they're not going to stop. But it is pretty shocking to see it be number one, and number one by quite a large margin.
Yeah, when you look at the other markets, they're definitely lagging behind in increases. And yeah, it's nuts to think that a hotel will cost 50% more today than it did just 5 years ago. The car rentals, the food, of course. So yeah, it's an interesting look at all of this. Tucson, number 2. Who would have thought Tucson was so expensive to visit?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Weenies and Bikinis coming to Circa for 4th of July. That's the headline here. And I just thought that was a typical day at the pool at Stadium Swim. You had the
mostly weenies,
cocktail servers. Yeah, more weenies than bikinis. But yeah, they're having a hot dog eating contest with women in bikinis. Now, unfortunately, to be in the contest, it's by invite only. I wonder what you have to do to get the invite. But men are invited to pay their way in. If you have a seat inside Stadium Swim, you can watch the contest go on. And of course, all the other festivities for 4th of July happening too.
I don't know why like eating hot dogs became a 4th of July thing. I know they have the contest, the Nathan's contest for years. But it's just funny that like that's what we do now and everybody thinks that's, celebrating. But I think it's a cool idea. I mean, we always praise Circa on their marketing and the inventive ways they come up with stuff, and it always like fits in with them, where some places, like Fontainebleau do these weird things, that to try to bring people in like eclectic all over the place. Circa really kind of knows who they are and they stay pretty true to it. So I think this is good. Maybe they can bring Joey Chestnut in. How epic would that be? Because I think he got kicked out of the Nathan's one because he signed some impossible meat hot dog deal or something. So drama there. If they could get him to do the contest, that would be pretty crazy.
But he'd have to wear a bikini, so I don't know how all that would work. But yeah, cool thing. They know their market, they know their customers, and they market to them well, which is so interesting. And they're always on point with their different marketing efforts. And this is no different. So Weenies and Bikinis on July 4th, if you're interested. On a recent show, we covered that monolith that the police department found out in the desert near Gas Peak. And in doing some more research, I found out that there's over 250 of these around the world that have shown up. The one in Nevada apparently was first seen in 2020, along with many of these other ones. So it had been discovered before. Unfortunately, Metro ruined everything because once they found it, they decided they were going to take it down because it was a safety hazard. They didn't want people hiking out to try to find it and getting heat strokes, stuff like that. So it's now gone.
Yeah, we didn't even think about that when we were talking about like reflections and everything, or just like having people go out into in the summer in Vegas is tough, you know. And we talk about people wanting to go to what is it, like 120 degrees in the Badlands, and people go out there every year even though they're told not to. So I can't blame them for taking it down. It's still weird to me that they go up.
Nobody knows who's putting them up or where they're coming from. They're all over the world, which is sort of nuts. If you look into these monoliths, and yeah, that's about it. The one in Vegas now gone, unfortunately. So let's move on to the Raiders and talk about air conditioned tailgating. They just announced these new tailgating sections. They're going to hold up to 15 people, starting at $20,000 per game. So not cheap at all, but that's all inclusive. So that'll be your food and drinks and everything else. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty nice. They say it's an upscale ambiance right next to the stadium. I don't see myself spending $20,000 for this, though.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I mean, it's just like a trailer on wheels, but you have the inside. I mean, I would still wouldn't want to pay it early in the season because it would be so hot and you want to go inside, but the inside's pretty small and tight and narrow and the seating's a little bit weird there. You know, I'd save it for later in the season where you get all that outdoor space, even like the rooftop where you don't need as much of the AC. I think it would be cool. If you get 15 people together, what's that, like $1,400 a person? I know that's like base package, so I'm sure we'll go way up from there, but it'd be kind of a unique experience. I could see a lot of bachelor parties, 15 people. I think that'd be a pretty cool experience. So I think they'll sell out. I mean, these things probably cost them like 50, 60 grand to put there. So they're going to make money hand over fist off of this.
Yeah, I was just going to say that they're going to make all their money back the first season on what they spent on this. It's not like this is all that fancy, but yeah, it's a great idea. And I'm sure with only a couple of them, I'm sure they'll be able to sell them just fine. And there's plenty of corporate sponsorships, plenty of people with money that are Raiders fans that want that whole experience. So I think it's really cool. What's not cool is this email we got from a viewer about Caesar's Palace. And I wanted to know what you thought about this, Mark, because I think we've all kind of spilled something in a hotel room. And in this case, it was wine. And they say a little bit of wine on the carpet and then a little bit on the sheets, I guess. And they let Caesar's Palace know that they did this. I think maybe that's the first mistake. Maybe you just sort of, pretend it didn't happen. But when they did that, then their host said it'd be okay. Then they came back with a $1,500 cleaning bill and basically charging them for all the replacements of the sheets and everything at crazy rates for Caesars, because I know those sheets aren't all that good. What do you think?
Yeah, I have an interesting perspective of this because I used to work in the linen industry and we did hotels and stuff like that. So wine is a bit tough to get out, and I understand that you have to replace stuff. If you didn't tell them, I bet there's a good chance the maid would have never said anything. If you would have left the maid $50, said sorry but for the mess, I guarantee you they wouldn't have said anything. They would have thrown it in the thing and pushed it down. Sent it through the wash. It would have come out looking bad. Maybe they soak it in some bleach to try to save it. But even then, chance that they don't. So I think that's the way to do it. If you ever spill, leave a note for the maid, leave $50, $100, whatever it be, and just kind of go with it and see what happens. Now, the prices that they're charging for these are insane and nowhere near the cost of replacement for sheets or bed linen or anything.
Yeah, that's the problem here, is that it seems like they're trying to make a profit on this customer. A customer who had a host, so presumably plays a decent amount, right, to have a host and to have contact with them. And this customer tried to make it right. They outed themselves. They contacted you proactively. It definitely seems like something that's not great. But again, we don't have pictures, so we don't know exactly what was there either. But I would love to hear what people have done in similar situations. I'm sure lots of people visiting Vegas, something spills. I know we've spilled a little bit of wine like on the sheets before and just never said anything, but I'm talking about like a drop here and there, not a full glass where it stained everything. But so I've never done anything quite crazy, but I think you're right. Tip the housekeepers. That's probably a better move than getting a $1,500 bill on the back end.
Yeah, it's so short-sighted, and this is what we've talked about with these casinos, is they're all about profit and money, and they've lost sight of their customer. I mean, I think the person said that they would go once a month for, close to 40 years now. That's insane. And they're loyal to Caesars, so if you're going there 10 to 15 times a year, let's say, and you're spending money, there's no reason you could have charged the cleaning fee, the cost of labor, the cost of bringing the shampoo thing up there, and maybe charge the cost of the sheets and the linens that you have to replace, which is like $10, $20 maybe. Don't charge $500, $800, whatever it is that they charge for sheets and the skirting. It's insane. Shame on them. It's terrible.
Let's close with this. Life is Beautiful. That big downtown music festival that's become so popular. It started in 2013. It's sort of been in limbo. It's now owned by Rolling Stone, and they've decided that the music festival is on a hiatus, but instead they're going to do a big, beautiful block party. And this is going to be done in the lot next to Plaza. They're going to have 2 stages. It's going to be a weekend, so 2 nights. So it went from like 28 block radius all around downtown with all this art and everything to a small little block party. Although they say that the festival may come back at some point, and then these 2 events could live side by side.
Yeah, I think this sounds better to me. You know, it seems like it was just too much, too big before, but maybe I'm wrong. And people love the way it was set up, but this seems more manageable for people. I think the price is quite a bit cheaper, like $200 a person. So you can get like the festival, you only have 2 stages. You can hop back and forth a bit easier. And maybe it's not so much of a stress load to downtown area that came before, and trash and cleanup and everything else that they need to manage. I don't know. I feel like this will play off a bit better.
Yeah, you're not going to have the scale and scope. You're not going to have all the artwork. A lot of what made Life is Beautiful special won't be there. You have to once again give props to Plaza for scoring this somehow, because a lot of what happened used to happen on the east side of Fremont, not close to their property. Now you're getting the whole music festival right next door. And so another good move by them. This is a downgrade. Let's hope Life is Beautiful is coming back. I guess what we can say is this is better than having nothing, which is what we thought we were going to have. So, this is an improvement that way.
Yeah, and if they bring both back, then it's double up for everybody. If they end up figuring out how to do it and they have one in the fall, one in the spring, something like that, you get a couple shots at it.
So let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about. Lotus of Siam, all those houses going in near Red Rock, Vegas costing a lot to visit, Caesars overcharging for linens, all of that stuff. Hit us up in the comments. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in a couple days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
And a shout out to the viewer that saw me in the emergency room after filming last week's episode with kidney stones. And if you could see me sweating on the second half of that video, it was because of that. And, I was sitting in the emergency room and he walks by and says, "Oh, hey, big fans. I knew I'd run into you around town. Didn't think it'd be here. I hope your mom's doing better." Thanks so much for watching.